Here are some of the comments on that. You're trash. You weren't opposing ethnic cleansing. You were defending white colonialism.
Which is fucking true. That's exactly what he was doing.
Nothing new for you. Very disingenuous way of framing decolonization, but I wouldn't expect intellectual honesty from you.
How is this canceling? How is this fucking cancellation? This is just people pointing out that he's full of shit. Is it now cancellation to point out that somebody's full of shit when they're full of shit? Or is it like churlish to point out that Faush is full of shit because it's just kind of his thing? Xanderhal standing Faush. That could be interesting. Faush gets cancelled for being against ethno-states and genocide. That's just such a good faith title. Will's back. Understanding leftist language. Woke Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's long, but intriguing. I'm sure there's going to be some serious bullshit in there. I mean, apart from everything else, it's PragerU, and it's that guy with the absolute fucked up mustache who claimed to be outraged about Muppet Babies. So that could be good content there. Alexander Ocasio-Cortez canceled over Met Gala dress. Now that is from Faush. That could be good. Any preferences? Okay. I think we're going to go with Vosh gets canceled for being against ethno-states and genocide, because, I mean, it just seems like such good faith.
These people are no different than white nationalists. They may not have the power and the support to push their beliefs into, prominence in the same way that, white nationalists do, but they're...
Oh, okay, so, okay, this kind of starts... Oh, wait a second, have I started too late? Because it seems like there's an antecedent missing, which I was going to fill in, but maybe...
People are no different than...
Oh, no, there wasn't. Okay, so what it has to know here is... These people refers to indigenous people talking about decolonization.
Nationalists. They may not have the power and the support to push their beliefs into, prominence in the same way that, white nationalists do, but their ideas are just as vitriolic.
Yes. This would be from the guy who is an almost ex-Nazi. Is going to lecture us about how decolonization shouldn't go.
There's nothing that I fear more than the middle of the night, staying up very late, playing Rust, having fun, watching YouTube. You know how it is. Opening up Twitter, and then I see in the trending tab that Vosh is trending.
You see, I always find that somewhat amusing, because usually it's because Vosh said some bullshit, which is kind of the only thing he knows how to say, because his entire style is to just not prepare, not actually learn anything about the subject, and just sort of browbeat the shit out of anyone, unless it's a Nazi, in which case he's very, very cordial.
Whenever I see that, I'm just like... Uh-oh. Why is Vosh trending? Uh-oh.
He probably said something racist, or maybe defended child porn again.
What's going on this time? What happened? Well, let me give you guys a little bit of background. You see, the left, and I should clarify, the online left, is infested with actual anti-white racism.
Okay. Yeah. See, okay, if you're an ex-Nazi and want to prove that you really are an ex-Nazi, emphasis on the X, maybe you should kind of cool it with the white genocide. I don't know.
I know it sounds like a meme, and I know that we love to joke about hating white people here. I love white people jokes, okay? I love making fun of white
Oh yeah, some of his best friends are white people jokes.
people. I love making jokes about doing white genocide and, oh, I hate white people. Okay, I'm white. You need to call me a cracker, okay? Or honky, or white boy, or
Okay. So this is his cred, I
mayo head,
guess.
or mayo head. I prefer. Okay, we do it all the time. But the reason we make those jokes is because it's punching up for one, and we don't actually mean it, right? Like that's the reason why it's funny. It's because the jokes are ironic, right? However, there are a lot, and I'm going to be very, very clear here, a lot of people on the online left who are actually racist against white people.
Yeah, that doesn't actually work because there isn't a non-white supremacist power structure that can be part of. Being pissed off about white people is just the result of having a socioeconomic category called whiteness that defines the people who fuck everybody else over to some degree or other.
Okay?
Not the same fucking thing.
Now, one of the thing is, and the reason why the online left is so open to this idea is because those that want to push a harmful narrative, a harmful ethno-nationalist narrative for like black
You
people,
mean like talking about white genocide as if it were an actual thing, kind of like you just did? That's that kind of harmful ethno-nationalist narrative?
they they kind of disguise their borderline like white nationalist only black talking points with
Yeah, except that's really. Here's the thing. And I mean, this is all down to a video. Basically, Professor Flowers made the mistake of debating Vosh, which is really just. There's no point. It's just fucking browbeating. And he spent the entire time trying to get her to say she was okay with ethno nationalism and genocide. She didn't say it. He claimed that she did anyway. And in the meantime, Vosh, on the strength of not knowing anything about black nationalist ideology or anything like that, declared it identical to white nationalism, despite which it totally fucking isn't. I mean, and requires us to pretend that the fake distinction between white nationalism and white supremacism is an actual real one. And so Xanderhal, the ex-white nationalist, the guy who has said that he's willing to die on the hill, that he is better qualified to argue against white supremacist talking points, having been one. Yeah, also has decided to just not even acknowledge the fucking difference.
like a veneer of wokeness. They don't say black ethno state, they say decolonized community. They don't say genocide or like racial genocide, they say decolonization.
Yeah, that's because those are different things, you see. See, you say decolonization instead of genocide because what you want is decolonization and not genocide. You understand that, yeah, except in the minds of fucking white nationalists, decolonization and genocide are not the same thing.
They say fighting back against oppressors and whatnot. But when you hold their ideas up to scrutiny to any degree, it becomes very clear that their talking points are literally Richard Spencer neo-Nazi white nationalist talking points, only replace white with black. Okay, it's literally all it is.
Yeah, okay, even if that were actually true, which it actually is not, the thing is that that is only a gotcha if that's completely equivalent. The whole thing about white nationalist talking points, for the most part, is that white nationalists claim falsely to be colonized by, Jews for the most part, which is bullshit. And so the reason that a lot of what follows from all of that is objectionable is that it's bullshit, and it's bullshit that is used to justify genocide. There is not the same thing, even if there actually were this, like, interchangeability that he's trying to claim that there is. It's not the same thing as people who actually are colonized talking about not being colonized anymore. Jesus fucking Christ.
Been saying this for a long time. Anyone with half a brain cell knows it, but a lot of the online left is afraid to call it out because it, feels like if you're a white person, you shouldn't be speaking over a black person who wants to decolonize, So, here's what happened. There's an individual who I've been aware of for a little while now named Professor Flowers, and she is a left tuber with a...
And I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna rehash the stuff that she went over in her 2 videos on this, but definitely watch those. They're like the 2 of the most recent videos on her feed. Professor Flowers, very good, and they point out just how completely full of shit this is.
Moderately small community, and she's made a video on me before. I watched a little bit of it. It was
it made you look like a complete prat, because you are one.
Very, very bad. Anyway, she went on stream last night to debate Faush about black nationalism and black separatism, and Faush did quite the good job of exposing her as a white nationalist but woke. It was very clear she's in favor of genocide.
This is because this is just a lie. Let's just be clear. She never said that. No matter how many times Faush tried to put those words in her mouth, and he did it a lot, because that's just what he does, is he puts words in people's mouths until they slip up and they say something that can be taken as accepting that as a correct representation of their position. Then he says, well, see, there you go. I mean, so right here, this is just a complete fucking lie.
And displacing people, and is clearly actually racist.
Okay, and that's Xanderhal just reminding us that he's really not as ex-Nazi as he likes to claim.
And she did all she could to try to keep the optics on her side pretty good, but most people, I think, came out of that debate with it being pretty clear to them that this person, Professor Flowers, is a white or a black separatist.
To get rid of,
which is actually not true, again.
Their
but I
colonizers
explicitly asked you about the mass deportation of the 6 million white people in South Africa, and you said that it was the right of black South Africans to do that. You're saying that they have a right to commit a genocide. That's a pro-genocide.
See, this is when you clip this, it actually seems more reasonable than it is, because he actually, first of all, he's misrepresenting what she said. Second of all, this is like, I think 5 or 6 times of browbeating this exact point, trying to get her to agree to it.
Side stance, as far as I'm concerned.
Not letting her finish the sentence.
The right to at least figure out if they want the colonizers to be there or not, and like how to do that process. But yeah.
Well,
and the biggest bullshit about this as well is we're talking about he's trying to come up with these sort of racist slippery slope arguments, as if decolonization were some kind of a hypothetical, as if we did not have roughly more than half a century of examples of how this goes, like the Pieds Noirs in Algeria, who just buggered off on their own steam because they really weren't interested in being in a society where they did not have some sort of superior status as colonizers. Or South Africa, where for the most part, white people have just kind of stayed put, and they haven't really suffered any economic losses, except for a few of them who have opportunistically converted to Judaism in order to colonize the West Bank, because they just like apartheid that much. I mean, the Japanese in Korea is another example. There are lots of fucking examples of this. I mean, you could even mention the Volksdeutsche colonizers in Central Europe after World War II. So you could actually, there are lots of examples of this shit. But he wants to have this fucking slippery slope argument and then browbeat her with it rather than just listening, so that he can come up with a gotcha, and he didn't even manage that because he's bad at what he does.
I take issue with the idea that me being opposed to ethno-states means that I'm like toxic towards black content creators.
Which is already a lie, because she didn't speak in favor of ethno-states. He kept on putting that word in her mouth and trying to get her to bite it, and she didn't.
It's not just like you being oppressed to ethno-states, because I think for me, like, even if like people got rid of like the white South Africans in South Africa, I think there's like ways that could happen that would be really messed up. But I do think it's for the black South Africans to figure out like how to do that in general. I guess I will say that there are some lines that definitely can be crossed, but that's not even just what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is that like people who just disagree with you, you can't help but compare them to white nationalists.
The problem is the online left is obviously infested with people who...
Note the dehumanizing language again. Infested. The online left is infested with people who are against racism and imperialism. Infested. Coming from a guy whose whole shtick is he used to be a Nazi and now he's halfway not one. That's not the kind of language that I, in that position, would be using.
While they may not believe the same things as her, they are still extraordinarily charitable to her beliefs and other people.
Interesting use of charitable, because charity means actually kind of arguing in extreme good faith, really. Giving benefits of the doubt where there are areas that are open for interpretation. Whereas what he and Faush like to do is not give any room to even get a word in edgewise, and then just aggressively strawman.
Believe the things she believes. And so, Vosh got hit with a cancellation. Here's a little bit of
and like most cancellations, it hasn't affected him at all. It just means he was criticized for being full of shit.
A little bit of a few screenshots here to show it. So Vosh tweeted, as the cancellation was kind of going down, "I suppose opposing ethnic cleansing isn't the worst thing I've been cancelled for."
Because that's not actually what you were doing. That's just a fucking lie. But, yeah. If it were true, it still wouldn't be as bad as the time you were cool with fucking child porn.
Here's some of the comments on that. "You're trash. You weren't opposing ethnic cleansing. You were defending white colonialism.
Which is fucking true. That's exactly what he was doing.
Nothing new for you. Very disingenuous way of framing decolonization, but I wouldn't expect intellectual honesty from you.
How is this canceling? How is this fucking cancellation? This is just people pointing out that he's full of shit. Is it now cancellation to point out that somebody's full of shit when they're full of shit? Or is it like churlish to point out that Vosh is full of shit because it's just kind of his thing to be full of shit?
Convenient way to frame a situation in which you spent the entirety of your point trying to force a contrived hypothetical.
Okay, again, quite accurate. This is cancellation, apparently. It's when people watch your video, observe what you did, and point it out to you as if you didn't know.
People who are stupid and wrong hate hypotheticals. They can't stand them because they're sort of like...
No. Actually, people who are dealing with real-life situations don't like hypotheticals that are designed to completely remove the key factors from it. Especially when you're trying to treat decolonization, say, as this boogeyman off in the future, as opposed to something that we've actually seen quite a bit of since 1945.
Philosophy, their moral ideas don't hold well to scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, hypotheticals are... Okay, I'm not going to say that there is no use for them. There's definitely a lot of use for them, but there's such a thing as a dishonest hypothetical. There is such a thing as a hypothetical for the entire purpose of putting words into somebody's mouth, so that somebody interprets it one way, and then you just go off as if they were saying something completely different, which is exactly what Faush is doing, and Xanderhal admires it because...
to walk the other person into an ideological corner. You weren't opposing ethnic cleansing as much as you were being... And then it cuts off. These are very similar arguments people...
Who cut it off? I thought these were screenshots that you took, Xanderhal. Why didn't you just take the whole thing? They had a fucking point. Yeah. Cancellation is apparently when people just kind of say, really patiently, quite politely, that Vosh is just a dishonest fuck. I mean, they didn't even explicitly say that, and see, that's where I would have gone with it, because he's a dishonest fuck. I wouldn't even dignify him with the conversation, because he just completely has a hard-on for what he calls debate, which is him browbeating people, unless they're Nazis, in which case he fucking sucks them off.
We'll use against Destiny, because Destiny also tends to use a lot of hypotheticals to make an argument.
Yeah, and they're dishonest too, that's the thing.
To test someone's logical consistency. You oppose black spaces without white influence.
Yeah, that's right, he does. And...
What is that? What is a space where there's only one racial group without the influence or presence of another racial... What is that called?
Oh, God. Yeah, Jesus Christ, this guy is so fucking ripe.
What is the word that we have for that? I'm pretty sure there's a word for that, isn't there?
See what he's gonna... Okay, the wonderful, like, little dramatic pause here, when all he's just doing is making a false equivalent.
You oppose blank spaces without blank... What? On ethnostate, that's...
No, that isn't a fucking ethnostate, you dickhead. Did it say states? First of all, did it say states? I didn't see states anywhere. It said spaces. That could be a fucking room. God, this is how dishonest this whole debate was, how dishonestly this whole debate was carried out. It's really...
Aren't we on the left supposed to be against those? I thought we were against ethnostates. Wasn't that...
Where did they say anything about ethnostates? And also, the thing is... That is not a single ethnicity. If you say without white influence, hell, if you even just say black without white influence, there are lots of fucking ethnicities that still fit into that, you dickhead.
Our thing, like, we don't like racism, we don't like ethnostates. Like, I want to be very clear here. So
yes, okay, be very clear. You like racism and you kind of like ethnostates if it's not, as long as they're yours.
Nobody confuses any of my ideas. Under no circumstances do I think it is permissible for any race to advocate for spaces where other races are excluded. I don't give a shit if you're black and you want to have like a little club where there's no white people allowed. I don't fucking care, okay? That's racism.
No, it fucking isn't. See, and here's the thing. I mean, this is why there's a segment of the left that just kind of bends over backwards for anyone who says, oh, I used to be a Nazi. Like that's a fucking thing we should be congratulating people for when so many people manage to never have been one. So they just let this shit through because the idea is, oh, look, he's done such a wonderful thing by no longer being an active Nazi. And, no. Here's the thing, Xanderhal, if you actually are against the things you say that you are now against, then you would understand that these sorts of bullshit arguments, which he's just sort of brought over from the far right, are fucking bullshit and would accept that people point it out instead of getting all fucking thin-skinned about it.
We, lefties, should be
We lefties. So it was Steve Buscemi meme coming right up.
Complete integration and living together in harmony of every race, ethnicity, religion, etc., right? As long as these ideals that certain people hold don't hurt others, right? Like, we don't want Christians who are super transphobic living in harmony with trans people because that's...
But that would be, first of all, if they're living in harmony, then surely that would mean they were no longer super transphobic or indeed transphobic at all. But, yeah. If you're already starting to separate people out, because then you kind of recognize that sometimes people from, like, marginalized and oppressed groups sometimes need to have some space to themselves every once in a while, and that space is not inherently a state, you fucking dickhead. a state actually has a certain apparatus to it.
It's impossible. You have to make those people not transphobic. At the very least, keeping them from gaining political power they can use to exert their beliefs onto trans people, for example.
Okay, then by your definition, Xanderhal, that's a trans ethno state, whatever the fuck that is.
I believe in actual integration, not in segregation, but woke. All right. But of course,
What about this could not be right? They could not be on fucking PragerU. I mean,
the online
seriously
left is infested. And I want to make it very
okay. Got it. Okay, wonderful. That is some good old Nazi language to remind us where he came from. Infested. Yes.
clear, because a lot of people try to downplay how many people
You're having trouble working up the energy to give a fuck about what this guy wants, but he's a white guy who used to be a Nazi. Aren't we supposed to all care what he wants? I mean, including not being challenged by people who point out that actually he's still got a lot of that ideology rattling around in there in that fucking trap of his?
believe this. It is a problem. The online left is infested
Say that fucking again, okay?
with people who either believe this kind of shit or make excuses for those who believe this kind of shit. And I want to be clear, I think those that make excuses for it are in the majority. Who here remembers my debate I had with Re-Education? This is why I stopped being friends with him.
And that already makes me think that Re-Education might be a worthwhile person.
A lot of people unsubscribed from Re-Education after this debate we had. Basically, I'd gotten into a big Twitter argument with someone who was literally arguing that white people are inferior to black people and that we should have black
Yeah, and I'm not going to comment on this because I have absolutely no idea who Re-Education is, apart from the fact that they apparently don't rate Xanderhal, which already makes me positively disposed towards them. But, I mean, what he said so far has been so thoroughly dishonest that I would not take any of it as fact.
those states, and so I had a debate with Re-Education on this particular topic. This is back when I lived in Florida, I believe. Is it gonna work? Yeah. This is back when I lived in Florida. God, I looked so young back then. I still look the same, actually.
Yeah, like a schmuck.
That debate did not go well for Re-Education. Not very well at all.
Yeah, I love how these guys just sort of claim victory no matter what actually
A
happened.
lot of people unsubscribed from him after that. He made some very bad arguments, but I think he's a very good example of what I'm talking about here.
Oh, well, you got the video queued up. Why don't you show us his arguments to show how bad they are and how totally honest your description of this interaction was?
He himself may not be in favor of black ethno-states or anything like that. but
Yeah,
you'll always see someone like him make excuses for those that are in favor of that. So basically,
keeping in mind that he defines black ethno-states as any space at all of any kind that black people have to themselves.
these are the people canceling Vaush. He is unironically being canceled for being against ethno-states, ethno-nationalism, and racism.
Really? Except that you haven't shown him being against those things, and you also haven't shown him being canceled. So, I mean, let alone unironically. God.
And it is wild to me. Anyway, I felt the need to talk
Yeah, it's
about
wild. It's wild. We can just sort of make shit up like that. I mean, you can make up all sorts of wild bullshit.
this because I feel like when drama like this happens, a lot of like lefty YouTubers and people in the left community around here tend to just sort of ignore it and let the lies and the slander be sent out against the person who's being canceled.
Yes, in this case, that would be Professor Flowers, who was extensively lied about first by Vaush and now by Xanderhal. And yeah, we should not be letting that stuff fester. In fact, that's part of why I decided that this prick has actually gotten sort of a free ride for a little bit too long when he's so full of shit, and he manages to do actually very much the same sort of thing Caleb Muppet does, in terms of just sort of sneaking reactionary shit into left spaces. In his case, with his I'm an ex-Nazi shtick.
I'm not gonna let that happen. Vosh is my friend. I'm gonna lend support, let you guys know what's going on, why he's being canceled, and why you should be on his side of things, and just to generally raise more awareness about the problem of actual, like, I don't want to say black supremacy, but
Yeah, because that would even be more bullshit. But if you're going to say that black nationalism and white nationalism are identical, then you kind of do have to lean into black supremacy, because white nationalism is white supremacism. But you know perfectly well, obviously, even with what little he knows about this, he knows perfectly well that they're not the same thing. And so this is like one lie too far, apparently,
yeah,
for him.
black supremacy, I guess you could say, that's sort of permeated so deeply into the online left. Yeah, don't support ethno-states, don't support exclusionary spaces based on race, no matter how woke it sounds. The only right way is to make it so that black and white people and people of every race are living together, occupying the same spaces without animosity and conflict.
Yeah, and yeah, you see, coming from his position as a white guy who actually bought into Nazi shit and still hasn't completely shed all of that. Like, I love how it's just so very. Well, why don't we just, live, laugh, and love together, as if there's no intermediate stage where, like, the people who have actually suffered in various ways to varying, in varying degrees on the other end of white supremacy, on the other end of capitalism, might need some time to sort of work shit out, and also might have a right to decide what harmonious coexistence looks like that they would be willing to accept. I mean, Christ, I mean, the level of false equivalency, it's like when, I mean, it's up there with like when Mark Regev treats the warheadless symbolic rockets from Gaza as equivalent to the Israeli Air Force's latest onslaught. I mean, it is just such bullshit.
Trust me, a lot of black separatists have views that mirror white nationalists. Oh, yes.
Okay, well, why do we need to trust you? Surely, if this is so true, and you've said it like 3 times now, you could give us some examples, since obviously you are not in any way talking out your ass, and you know all about this stuff, right?
Trust me, I know A-Pillow. I know.
Then show us.
Canceled? Ooh, I think we've got one of those people in chat right now. So, here's an example of someone making excuses for black separatism in the online left. It can be something as simple as, oh, well, how's he being canceled? Is he losing his YouTube channel?
Yeah. Okay, so that's making excuses. This is interesting because he's giving us the decoder ring for his bullshit. Because when he says people are making excuses, they're doing things like asking obvious questions like, what the fuck do you mean by canceled? What actual consequences has he suffered? And of course, Xanderhal is a bit embarrassed because he hasn't suffered any. I mean, the best he could come up with is some people very politely pointed out that he was full of shit.
It's not that big a deal. He's just getting shit on Twitter.
Which is deserved. People pointed out he was full of shit. I mean, what? So the idea is that we're doing a cancel culture? That is actually literally exactly what this cancel culture bullshit is. Oh, okay. Que se vayan todos. Lo que pasa es que, bueno, esta polera lo compré después de una marcha en Santiago en 2015. Y que se vayan todos se refiere a la clase política, empresarial en Chile. Que se vayan todos los ricos culiados. Y los colonizadores, toda esa guay. Okay. Yeah, so the idea is we're not even allowed to question bullshit assertions like this idea that Vosh has suffered some kind of terrible consequences for, lying online and being just a prick.
That's what canceling is. Getting shit on Twitter.
Okay, so why didn't you just say that? Why didn't you just say he was criticized? Why say canceling if you're saying it's the same thing?
Tons of people go and start spamming your fucking replies with,
Wow, you know, it's almost like when you say some shit that fucking sucks online and a lot of people see it because you've deliberately done it in front of a whole lot of people because you've spent a lot of time cultivating an audience, a lot of people have something to say about it.
calling you things and attacking you and brigading you. That's canceling. That's what being canceled is. He's canceled.
Since when? I mean, God, I mean, and here he is once again bringing fast shit into the left. This is another example of it. God, I can't believe any prick stands this guy.
Okay? Let's make it very clear. Faush is being canceled for being anti-racist. Okay?
Yeah, okay, translated. Faush is being criticized for browbeating and lying about an anti-racist.
Okay? That's what's happening here, okay?
And
Yeah. I highly recommend you watch the Professor Flowers debate, but do not let the woke language sort of get you, okay?
yes, do not let the fact that she never actually says the things that Vaush keeps on trying to put into her mouth change your interpretation at all, because then you would have to just think that Xanderhal and Vaush were a couple of fucking liars.
Okay? When you hear one of these people say, we'll use this as an example, when you hear them say, you oppose black spaces without white influence, it's literally what this whole mess started out as, and you have made it clear you equate the notion to white supremacy. I'm embarrassed for having watched you this much. At least I know where you stand.
Yeah, well, okay, so when they say something totally reasonable that you just kind of out of fucking nowhere decided to equate to ethno-states, even though the word state isn't even in there.
Replace you oppose black spaces without white influence with you oppose white spaces without black influence.
Yeah, that's not the same fucking thing, you absolute drongo. Conchetumare, world.
I want you to tell me how that is any different.
Okay, so we're supposed to just teach you an entire fucking history class? See, the idea with people kind of being de-radicalized out of Nazi spaces is that they got to do some of the work rather than like getting on here and having this huge platform and being like, yeah, I don't know the history of racism, and that's your fault somehow. And I don't want to know about it because that's making excuses for black-white nationalists or whatever the fuck he's calling these people. Yeah, this guy is so full of shit.
On a base moral level, how is opposing black spaces without white influence any different than opposing white spaces without black influence?
Like, okay, again, history.
What's the difference? I want any of you.
And like, how is this anything other? This is an argument you would see in exactly this form. I could see fucking Richard Spencer making this argument. You could totally see this shit. Yeah, Prager, you would make a 5-minute video about it with some shitty animation. This is just so.
You in chat, please, any of you, to try to propose a difference.
Well, you've already said that acknowledging racism is making excuses and canceling people, so maybe not.
On a basic moral level, how is that any difference?
Yeah, you asked that already. I mean, we've established that you're making a white nationalist argument. You're doing a white nationalist talking point here. You don't need to keep repeating yourself.
There is none. There literally is no difference. Ethno-nationalism is ethno-nationalism.
Yeah, and, okay, where did the ethno-nationalism come in there, though? Yeah, I mean, see, what he did there is nobody was talking about. First, he takes black spaces and turns that into ethno-states. And now he's taking the same term, again, the same expression, and trying to claim that it's ethno-nationalism. You'd think that as an ethno-nationalist himself, ex-ethno-nationalist himself, he might be able to make this distinction. I mean, after all, he crapped on for a fairly extensive time in one video about how, having been a Nazi himself, he is better at debunking the exact kind of arguments he's making right here. So, yeah.
It's as cut and dry as that, my friends.
Yeah, all you have to do is deny
You can
a
make the
few
argument
centuries
that
of
it's different
history.
if you think white people are inherently immoral, and that's what these people believe.
No. I mean, God. This guy. See, I mean, this guy is so much more mask off than Vaush, too. I mean, Vaush hides it a little bit more. This guy is just, he just kind of starts out and he sounds like maybe he's gonna try to make some sort of a reasonable argument, or at least that he's coming from some not entirely horrible place, and then apparently eventually he just sort of lets it all hang out, and you start hearing his fucking white nationalist talking points resurfacing.
They actually believe that white people are inherently immoral, that white people, that like me, because I was born to a country where 150 years ago, 200 years ago at this point, slavery was the thing.
Oh, yeah, okay, see, again, so the idea is that this is all in the past, no current history of structural racism. Yeah, I mean, God, this is just literally the sort of shit you'd see on PragerU.
That moral burden now rests on me. It's very similar to original sin.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, this is literally the kind of argument I've seen them make. That, racism was a time period a long time ago, and therefore nobody has any... it doesn't affect anyone's life now. I mean, this is literally the shit he's arguing right now.
That Christians believe, where they believe that you're born in sin and you have to be baptized to wash the sin away. Mom, can you chill a little bit?
Oh, yeah, okay, so his mom thinks he's full of shit, too.
My mom just came over, and she is very, very loud. She has no respect for my stream. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on Team Xanderhal's mom there. I have no respect for this shit either.
Anyway, she'll be coming on in a moment to do media share, but that's really all I wanted to talk about. These people are no different than white nationalists. They may not have the...
You keep on repeating that. You haven't actually made the argument, except all you've shown is that if you change the words in their statements to completely different things, that what they say then becomes something completely different. Jesus.
Power and the support to push their beliefs into, prominence in the same way that, white nationalists do. But their ideas are just as vitriolic. They engage in just as harmful a behavior, and they're all pieces of shit and should not be accepted on the left.
Well, as opposed to you, we should totally accept you on the left. Jesus. Like, God. I mean, could we just agree that just ever having been a neo-Nazi like Xanderhal here, that's his thing, that he used to be a Nazi. That's not a reveal, that is his gimmick. That maybe people who used to be Nazis don't get to decide who should and shouldn't be on the left. That they maybe should shut up about that, since it's actually debatable whether they should be anywhere near the left. I mean, certainly he's got no business in left spaces with this bullshit. I mean, it's not like he's somebody who wants to learn. He clearly doesn't. He's stripped as much of the Nazi shit from his ideological core as he intends to, and he's just kind of kept the rest. And here he is just sort of flapping it around.
So yeah. She's still talking as loud as she can right outside the...
You talk louder, Xanderhal's mom.
Sure. Anyway, that's all there really is to talk about. Thank you all so much for watching today, and I will see... Oh, wait, even better one. Hold on, I forgot. There was one final good meme. One final good meme. Can we just enjoy this? Why...
Okay, so they're enjoying the fact that the experience of being browbeaten and lied about by Vaush was actually kind of traumatic.
Why would you self-own like this? So we've got Mel, who's a genocide denier tanky, who also uses idpol as a defense against her far-right beliefs.
Okay. Again, I don't know who this person is, but the fact that he's making those claims when we've seen what he actually means when he says these words means I don't believe a single word of this. I would not actually recommend anyone taking that as read.
I saw a lot of the same things he did with you as he did with me. I'm so sorry. Then Professor Flowers responds, yo, let's make a support group, given that we went through...
Yeah, laughing at the fact that when you abuse people, they don't enjoy it.
In my book, we're friends now. Unironic VDS support group. In their own words, a support group. Listen, if you have to make a support group
to deal with white assholes bullshit
following a debate that you've had with a person, you might have been blown the fuck out.
No, see, the thing is, if it's an actual honest debate and isn't fundamentally wrong and horrible in some way, then a debate is not an inherently traumatic experience. I'm not all that keen on formal debate. I don't think it's all that useful. But, I mean, you don't, when you deal with somebody who is just making an argument in an honest fashion, you don't generally rush out and unironically, I mean, I imagine this is being ironic, actually, because I've seen her videos, she definitely can laugh about Vaush's bullshit, but, yeah, just enjoying the fact that the browbeating and gaslighting and shit that Faush did actually caused discomfort is just fucked up.
Might have been blown the fuck out, okay? So, yeah, I just think that's funny. I think that's a funny place to wrap up the video. I feel like...
Yeah, okay, so he finds it amusing that, women need to, like, sort of talk to each other about the experience of being abused by his man, Faush.
That's a real nice place to wrap it up. Anyway,
God,
guys,
what a disgusting
it's time
prick.
to get stoned and do media share with my mom. So if you enjoyed this video, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all for coming today, and I will see all of you in the next video. All right, let's start with media share. Everyone subscribe, sub, you know all the things. Leave a like, all of that.
Oh, God.
I'll see you later.
What an absolute twat.
I would like to thank both of you gentlemen.
Okay, that was tiring. God, I've never actually watched an entire video by Xanderhal through, but I mean, just the level of bullshit on that. Whoa. I mean, what's interesting is he sort of showed his work, so we got to see that what he actually means when he says somebody's canceled. Oh, cancel just means they were criticized online because they said some shit that sucked. Oh, well, I mean, if that's what it is, then why is it such a bad thing? I don't see it. Maybe don't say things that suck?